Troublesome times are here, filling men's hearts with fear. Freedom we all hold dear, now is that stake. Humble your hearts to God, save from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon.
Thanks for joining us. You're going to be so pleased with our guest today. You're going to be surprised because we're into this mayor thing. We've had Mayor Dean here, and we've had Mayor from Columbia up here. Dean Dickey was up here, and now we have former Mayor BillPurcell. Mayor, good to have you here.
Lytle, it's great to be here. Thanks.
I was just pleased that you would be willing to come and do this show with us because you know Nashville.
Well, it was an easy decision for me. You were kind on the date that Mayor Dean had you to bring the blessing for the state of Metro. You were kind to include me then and to move so quickly to get me in.
Well, I just appreciate you being here, and if I ask you something you don't want to talk about, you just tell me I don't want to talk about it, that'll be fine. I want you to enjoy being here because I want you to come back because you've made some real impacts on this city, and this is my city. Well,
I appreciate your saying that very, very much. It's my city too.
I remember when you ran, first time I saw you on a commercial, and I don't know who came up with this idea, but it was great because it caught me. I'm blue collar, I'm not formally educated, I have all kind of learning disabilities, mechanic by trade, and I'm sitting home watching television and a pickup truck comes along and you're in, and this is you, and you were at a desk in the back of a pickup truck. And I said, that guy is working everywhere. And it made that, whoever wrote that commercial, it accomplished what they wanted to write.
Well, the notion during a campaign, hopefully, is what you delivered during the course of your service. And that was simple, and you got the message. The idea that the mayor and the government should be out where people are, where people need them, paying attention to the problems of people in the neighborhoods where they live. It
is, yes, you got to be where the people are. And you've done that, haven't you?
Well, I've tried. Throughout my career, both as a lawyer and then in elective office, I've felt as though that's what I was called to do, and the people have been awfully kind to allow me to do it.
Why Nashville, Tennessee? You didn't grow up in Nashville.
I didn't. I'm like, I guess, several mayors and a lot of other folks. I came from another city, in my case, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But I came to school here and realized very quickly that this felt like home, and then indeed it was home. And truthfully, I never looked back.
Nashville has got something special, hasn't it?
It does, and there are a lot of things that we can talk about. You can talk about the geography, you can talk about the built environment, you can talk about our place in the country and in the world, but really what we have, what makes this place special, and it truly always has been so, are the people who live here. And
it was so demonstrated when Mayor Dean was on. He said that the flood, he thought, was a signature point that let people see what Nashville's really all about, because people come from everywhere out of the city to help the city and didn't wait. They just jumped in and started helping people.
I don't think there's any question. You saw it at that time of incredible challenge. We've seen it in other challenges, whether it was a tornado or the other kinds of individual neighborhood assaults that occur. But you see it truly every day. It's a place that has been welcoming, inclusive, that said for as long as I have been here or known this city, if you want to come and be a part of what we're doing, if you want to be of assistance to us and be part of us, then you should come on and we will welcome you. And indeed, we always have. It's the friendliest city in America, and it continues to be that no matter how long you're here.
I don't want to try to date this program because this program it'll play on down the road, you know, but I heard on the newscast this morning we were number 25 in the, I don't know what it was, the best place to live or fastest growing, best economy, whatever it was, but we was on up the ladder, and people are starting to see that Nashville, I think Dallas was number 1, but we were, and we got a better football team they've got, so you know, that'll play anytime.
Well, in terms of quality of life, again, my decision was clear as a citizen and then as mayor. I don't know of a better place. I don't think there is a better place, and I think increasingly people are going to recognize that it is really all here. That the things that this city is focused on as a city, as a government, but as a people, are the things that give quality to your life and the life of your family, your children, your grandchildren. So. And as they recognize that increasingly, you're going to see us listed as number 1.
My prayer is that we be a safe place. Every boy and girl can go to sleep at night feeling safe. And you know, and it's going to take a lot of work to get there, but we can get there. I want to try to connect the dots because you came here, and Vanderbilt's what brought you here to go to graduate school at Vanderbilt?
In 1976, I came to go to law school here. My uncle has lived here almost all of his adult life. My
So
mother's
you had
family.
connections. You had some roots here.
I did. My mother's family is from northern Mississippi, and she grew up in Louisiana. So I knew the South and felt an affinity to it, and had relatives throughout this area of the South. But it was really when I came to law school that I came to understand and appreciate what it would mean for me.
You met a friend of mine at law school, Harold Bigham.
I did. He was my civil procedure professor. I saw him just recently. He's a good man.
Harold and I go back a long, long way. He may not want to admit it, but him and I go back a long, long way. You came in and you graduated, stayed here. What was your first job then? Was that where you was public defender?
Well, actually, right out of law school, I took 2 years to go to West Tennessee, and I was a legal aid lawyer, legal services lawyer, we called it at that time. West Tennessee was the last large area of America without legal services, and they were completing the expansion of that service. These are lawyers that help poor people in civil matters, and there are a whole wide range of those issues. A lot of them you see right here in this ministry on the streets of Nashville, but you'll see them just as well in rural areas. And there were no lawyers available to those people. So I was lucky, blessed really, to be in that first group of lawyers in West Tennessee. Spent 2 years there, and then was offered a job by Walter Kurtz to come and be a public defender here back in Nashville. So I came back in '81, been here ever since. Spent my first 3.5 years, though, as you thought, in Nashville as a public defender in the neighborhoods, in the courtrooms of Nashville.
Did you like that job?
You know, it was among the hardest, most challenging, and most rewarding jobs that I've had. And I think our current mayor and my friend Carl Dean would say much the same. He went on to be the elected public defender. He and I met in that work here in the courtrooms of Nashville. It's the one job that helps you both understand, appreciate, and feel the need to respond to the challenges that affect neighborhoods, that affect parents, and their children. Whether you're in juvenile court or adult court, you see the results of the problems of a city, and you feel called to do something about them.
When Mayor Dean was on, he gave me the figure, and I can't recall it, but it was high. It was really high. Of the people he defended in the public defender's office didn't have a high school degree.
You see the role of education, or the lack of education, the failure of education there. You see it in juvenile court as well. At the same time, you also see the change that can be made in people if that opportunity is made available to them even later in life.
See, you guys have converted me to that, because I came out of the woods down here in Giles County. I have learning disabilities. The word education is an unfriendly term to me, scares me. And with my mayor, what I would do when I went to school, I told him when I graduated I should put another girl's name on my diploma because she helped me all the way through so much. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure now that we know, I know I have dyslexia, severe dyslexia. And I'm an alphabet child, ADD, all this stuff. I've got those blessings. And then I'm just sort of slow to start with. So you put all that together, you know, education is not a strong suit in my way of thinking. But you guys have convinced me by just the statistics that you've been able to share with me, our schools have to be good schools.
You know, it's an interesting thing because Nashville really had this idea from a very early time. At the earliest stages of this city's development, we called ourselves first the Athens of the West. And then I think we got a better map and realized we were more south than west, and we became the Athens of the South. But at the time we began saying that about ourselves, it was really aspirational. We wanted to be a place of learning. We wanted to be a place that appreciated the importance of learning in the life of a city, in the lives of the people in the city. Now, in the beginning, again, mostly aspirational and certainly not for all of our people. But by the time that I was elected in 1999, and certainly during the course of this new millennium, I think this is a city that agrees. And I hope and believe it's one of the most important things that occurred during my time as mayor. A city that believes that education really is the most important thing we do and always will be the most important thing we do.
And see, I think it's still going to take a sales job. I believe we have some people that don't believe that. You can always have some people.
Well, you will always have.
Yeah.
You will always have. But I think about that, and you know, truthfully, if nothing else was left here today by me, I would be satisfied in agreeing with you and saying straightforwardly, about this we have to have an agreement, and we do, but we have to work on that agreement every day of every year for all the years to come. This is not something that you can simply agree about and move on. If it's the most important thing you do, then it's the thing that you have to stay focused on, stay together about, and talk about with each other literally forever. And about that, we will always have work to do.
I want to come back to this. Don't let me, because I'll get off on, I chase rabbits on this show, and that's what I like about this show. I saw Dan Miller do Miller and Company 100 years ago, and I thought, boy, if I wish I could do something like that. And so I've been blessed to be able to do that with Sam and Betsy's help here and get this word out and have good people like you come on board. You, as mayor, did something that I am just thrilled with. And you brought Ronald Surpass to Nashville. And what led you to that decision, to bring that rascal in here? Because I tell you what, I'm a Surpass fan.
Well, for me, this lesson, it goes back where you thought it did, back to my early days in the courts of Nashville, in the jail of Nashville, on the streets of Nashville, and a recognition, and then as a candidate, a statement that I felt as though the whole city had to be safe. That it wouldn't be good enough for a person to say my neighborhood is safe or my workplace is safe, that the whole city had to be safe, because at the end of the day, if it happened anywhere in the city, if it didn't touch you today, it'd touch you tomorrow or the day after that.
Or your family.
Absolutely, and no question. The whole city had to be safe. And when it came time to choose a new police chief, we did a national search. We invited people anywhere in the country who were interested to come. And I had an independent citizen committee, a great cross-section of people from this city, from north and south and all walks of life within the city. First look at these candidates who were each qualified and each had great skill sets and great experience. And what they realized right away is that Ronald Surpass understood where we were as a city. And to be honest with you, that was not in as good a place as we should be. Mm-hmm. I had that sense both as a lawyer and as a resident of East Nashville, but he understood it in a very analytical, in a very scientific, in a very statistical way, and he presented those statistics to the citizen committee and then to me. From there, he also convinced us that not only were we not doing as well as we could do, but we could do a lot better than that. And with that understanding and belief, he started out. And you're right, within a very short period of time, I'm satisfied he'd convinced the police department, yes, you're facing social problems, yes, there are other issues in the world, but at the end of the day, the people who lead on public safety, the people who are there in the neighborhoods who can transform that feeling of security that you just talked about, are the police officers, the rank and file police officers, and the leadership of a police department. And he did just that.
He understands the police are us.
He does.
He understood that concept. And he understands, and I heard Colin Powell say this weekend on an interview, don't make your adversaries your enemies. And I thought, boy, that's as a matter of fact, I used it in a sermon Sunday. Then talking to our seniors at the Inner City Church of Christ. We had 13 graduating seniors. And from represented, I don't know, about 5 or 6, 7, 8 schools in Nashville, from all over, because we're inner city ministry. We go all over the inner city. And I told them that as I think I had 3 or 4 talking points to them. One of them was, don't make your adversaries your enemies. And I thought that was good. Surpass always said, get it on the table and let's talk about it.
Right.
We don't have to agree. Let's talk about it and start working toward a solution. And I think that's the key to what we have to do when it comes to education, because people like myself with learning disabilities, and so many of the parents that I deal with, they were special education students. And so school's not a friendly place, so they give no support to their children when they go to school. And we've got to fix that as a city. We've got to put our arms around those parents and get them into the schools, talking to the teachers, and have that bond there so that the student and the parent and the teacher can work for the betterment of that child.
When I first became mayor, you may remember that I had the idea that we ought to bring the city into the schools. And I first proposed and then implemented the Mayor's First Day Festival. And the idea there was a pretty straightforward one. That if the first day if school was the most important thing we did, then that first day every year ought to be the most important day in our calendar. We have lots of days that we celebrate for many different reasons, but as a city, we could and should celebrate that first day of school. But the major purpose was on that day to get parents to go into the school, see the building, see the teacher, become part of the PTO and the PTA, become part of the life of that child in that school, and then become the supporter, the defender, the protector, the helper in that school setting. In that first year when we started that First Day Festival, we decided to have a party. Go to school was the idea, and then have a party for the parents and the kids.
I remember that.
We had we had less than 10,000. The last time that I looked at the numbers, we had 20,000 parents and kids coming together to celebrate the first day of school. It's a notion of beginning that way, but you're exactly right. It has to stay that way. It has to stay that way through the life of your child in the schools of Nashville. And then, frankly, it needs to stay that way, as you have shown, through your continued connection with your community. Whether you have a child in that school or not, that school is important to your neighborhood, to the future of your city. And so you have encouraged and yourself continued to be involved in the life of these children through their schools, through their neighborhoods. And that's what, frankly, this city needs to continue to do in as strong a way as possible.
I've run into a real problem that we've been able to finally identify. I identified it probably 10 years ago, but it come back to the surface again. We started a tutoring program. In our tutoring program, we just picked a small group because we're going to really focus on them, and we're working with high school students. And what we're trying to do is get F students to be C students. You know?
I understand.
Not that we didn't want them to excel.
I understand.
But it's easier to get people. Most organizations automatically, and most individuals, we want to help the overachiever, the person that just can get out, that can make it. Well, we went and said we're going to get the F student and make them. I mean, you're talking about making 38 on tests and so forth.
Right.
Well, I found out, Mayor, and I knew this ahead of time, but he brought it back to the surface. A child that grows up in a dysfunctional home, daddy's not present, don't know who daddy is usually. Mother loves the child but does not have parenting skills. In order for the child to survive, I hope I don't lose you here, in order for that child to survive, as early as 3, they start building a wall around themselves. And I've had teenagers tell me this. They built a wall around themselves to not take in new information. That's the way they protected themselves. So they don't take instructions. And if you give them instructions, they refuse to take instructions until they've had time to think the process through, which is usually a 24-hour process. Well, that won't work in a classroom when a teacher says this is your assignment. And because of that, they don't do homework. And we got it documented with the kids that we work with. They refuse, and when we really pressed them, and we pressed them, you know, why aren't you doing your homework? Here's your assignments. And we got connected with the people here in Nashville, and Dr. What's his name? It's head of the educational department
Jesse
here.
Register.
Good man. Dr. Register worked it out for us to where we get in and work with the teachers and get the homework and through the computer. The computer age is great. And so we was following the children, and they finally just told us, no, I refuse to do homework. And what it was, I am convinced they can't take in new information because they don't trust the person that's giving them the information. Every time they've taken in new information, they've been burned, they've been hurt.
I see.
So they build that wall around them. Now, the only thing that we can do to break through with that, I think it's going to take the churches to get involved out of the church building, get out in the community where the people are, put their arms around these children and start filling in that position and support that child to start establishing trust. Once trust is established, they'll start taking in new information.
Well, the opportunities for communities of faith in this city are and remain, I think, incredible. And you in particular have, I think, identified the important role of faith communities in the life of children. There's a passage of scripture I've always been very, very moved by. It's Ecclesiastes, the 4th chapter, the 13th verse, and it says, "Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king who will not be admonished." And I think
what, Ecclesiastes?
4:13.
Boy, that's a sermon.
Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king who will not be admonished. And in this case, if you don't know what to do, that's one thing. But if you know what to do, if you know what will make a difference, if the admonition is clear to you, then I think that scripture, at least to me, through my tradition and my life and my faith, speaks to me and tells me what to do and tells me where the priority is. And in this case, you've said the same thing in another way. Those poor children are and can be wise children.
They can be.
But they need our attention, our support, as our own children, as our neighbors' children, and as the children of our community placed here. Ultimately, as part of our responsibility. And what you have done and continue to do and are committed to doing, I think, speaks to that need, that obligation, and that passage of Scripture, to me, speaks to it all.
Thank you. We spend 1.6 million a year in the inner city of Nashville, and I really need to double that. I am going to have to ratchet up my fundraising efforts, because now that we've got this thing identified, we're going to have a lot more volunteers. We have about 800 in a year's time that
Right.
will work some phase, but
Right.
a lot of them not in a lot of close contact with children. We've got to have mentors in these children's lives, and I want to try to get a family to adopt a family and just stay with those young ones,
Right.
go to their ball games, go this, go that, go see the teacher, and help mama, because mama doesn't know how to do that.
Or frankly doesn't have the time. If you're a single parent, maybe working 1 or 2 jobs, maybe even 3 in some cases, even if you know what to do, you may find yourself not able to devote the time to it or to be there at the critical moments when that child needs it. And whatever the cause is, you're right. There's an opportunity for all of us. And when you talk about that number, that dollar number, when I think about the other value that 800 plus volunteers in the course of a year make, you can't budget for that.
No, you can't.
The value that's added by that kind of commitment and that kind of involvement is value that's transformative to the life of a child, but ultimately, and I think this has been your purpose from the start, transformative to a community and to a city.
Right.
And I saw it driving up Joseph Street here to the studio today. We know the changes that a government can make, tearing down old, bad public housing that was, when you moved here, the center of crime and social dysfunction in this region.
Settled court right at the head of the ladder.
It was when you drew the lines out of problems. Choose your problem of a child, your problem of a family, your crime statistic. You were right at the center, usually, of the circles. Mm-hmm. We as a government could and should and did take away that public housing and replace it and transform the physical built environment. But in terms of reaching the people who are there, that's not something that a government building program can do. Mm-hmm. It is something, however, it takes people. It takes the schools that we've provided. It takes the people who care about the people in those schools. And it takes the kind of work that you're doing.
People are in people business.
Absolutely.
And the ones who try to shut themselves. Now, that's what it just intrigues me with you and Dean. Now, Bredesen, he came out of the medical profession or something. He didn't come out of the public defender's office, did he?
No, he was not. He was not a lawyer. He came.
Well, I was going to ask you that question. He wasn't a lawyer.
No, he was not. Very successful businessman. Also came from, in his case, upstate New York and from the north, but was welcomed here and made mayor and then governor, and successfully so.
Well, you know, we've had the last 3 mayors have been not homegrown fellows, and as Bredesen, Dean, and yourself. But Nashville, that represents Nashville. Nashville is a diversified community.
As I said earlier, it is a welcoming and a uniquely welcoming place, and I think that is a great secret to our success.
That can be our strength.
Absolutely. At a time in this country when we know how much help we all need, whether we're in a new business or in an old business, whether we're trying to help our schools or advance education, higher or lower education, however you want to think about it. The notion that people from anywhere can come and be a part of our work and advance that work is a huge strength.
Love is priceless.
There's no question about that, and it's felt immediately.
And it is, I tell you what, down here in the South, folks, I grew up here. I love it. Rednecks can love people. I tell you what, folks, we can make a difference in our city, and we are making a difference. Let me tell you, we ain't got 5 minutes to go. What? I hope I didn't embarrass you for saying rednecks. That's
Pastor, there's nothing you could say on your show that would embarrass me.
Where my wife told me, you need cleaned up, lady. You need cleaned up. You need cleaned up. But hey, I am what I am, a part of that. What's the future? What's in the future for you?
Well, you know, I've returned to Nashville after a time in the North teaching and as a part of a higher education institution.
That was at the Kennedy Center or Harvard?
I was at Harvard. I was at the Institute of Politics for 2 years and then in the administration at Harvard. And I returned home to the same house, same wife, same neighborhood, same dog, and in my case, same law partner. And I can't tell you how great it is to be home, how great it is to be back here in a community that has this much love and this much, I think, prosperity is not the word. It is more a focus on what we can be as a community, and to know that I can continue to help people as a lawyer with their problems, individual or collective, and that's what I'm doing. It's where I started. It's what I trained to do, and what I have enjoyed doing all along. And now I can do it in a private law practice, and be here when called, and be anywhere else that I need to be when a client calls.
Well, I just appreciate you being here. Can you legally run for mayor again?
Oh, I think something I haven't looked at legally, the limitation on the mayor was unclear when I was mayor. It's probably worth reminding people of this. The original charter of Nashville had called for a 3-term limit, and both Mayor Briley and Mayor Fulton served 3 terms as mayor. During the time that Mayor Bredesen was mayor, a limitation was placed on the city council, and it was uncertain whether or not that limitation would be effective as to the incumbent mayor. Mayor Bredesen didn't think so, and I didn't think so either. But it wasn't a question as a matter of law. It was a question, I thought, of what the policy should be. And so while I was mayor, I recommended that we clean this up, clear it up. And the people of Nashville placed a 2-term limit, 2 successive term limit in. And so both my mayorship and Mayor Bredesen before me served only 2 terms. I served the 2. Mayor Dean will serve 2 successfully. You know, 8 years is a good long time, whether you're President of the United States or Governor, and in my case, I believe Mayor of the City of Nashville. If you do a good job in your first 4 years, you can and hopefully will be reelected. In the second 4 years, you can get it done. And what I worked very hard to do in my second 4 years was to get it done.
You had, what, 88%?
Well, people were very kind to me in my reelection, and I was very.
I call that a mandate.
I was very appreciative of that, but it did give me the power and the strength and the desire, stronger than ever, to get done those things that I'd come in to do, to build the sidewalks, to build the neighborhoods, to do everything I knew to do to support the schools and the kids in those schools. And at the end of the day, when I walked out, I can't tell you that there weren't other things I would have liked to have done, but I felt good that the people of Nashville had let me do what I had asked to do and do the best I knew how.
What, we ain't got about a minute and a half to go. Who's the most famous person you ever met? Is that a fair question?
Well, I mean, famous is a subjective and I suppose very relative term.
Don't complicate it. I can't understand.
Billy Graham would be the most famous person that I met. Billy Graham came and did what at the time we thought might be his last crusade. I'm delighted and pleased to say that it was not. But Billy Graham came. He had been a heroic figure for my own grandfather, who was a Baptist minister in Louisiana. Granddaddy had one of the high points of his career was an article that Guidepost had published, and so one of the great moments in my time as mayor and in my life was being with Billy Graham with the article that my own grandfather had written in his magazine and having him sign that for me. It was a moment in the life of a city, and I'd have to say probably in this world the most famous person that I met.
Billy Graham, he's touched lives. He's been bold. He's been bold.
He came into this city, and it was a transformative crusade.
This city was right for him, wasn't it?
It was.
Mayor, our time is up. You're so kind. Will you come back?
Absolutely.
Did I treat you okay?
I know the way.
I know the way.
Thank you, Lionel.
I appreciate you. Folks, we're just so honored to have him, Mayor, here and talk about our city. But it's going to take us, folks. We can sit here and talk about it, but it's going to take us getting involved. So let's get out there and meet somebody and love them. Thank you for tuning in.
Freedom we all hold dear, now is that stay. Humble your heart to God, save from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom. Trumpets will sound, and all of the dead shall rise. Righteous men in the skies. I'm going where no one dies, heavenward bound. What troubles will soon be o'er, happy forevermore. When we meet on that shore, free from all care. Rising up in the skies, telling this world goodbye. Home and we will fly, glory to